Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Etienne with Project Kin and delighted to welcome you to our little Christmas party here for the Speaker's Corner. My co-host for this, my real host, producer, and extraordinaire eventer is Jennifer Jones has joined us to bring together speakers from our speakers corners so far here in 2025 since the program began. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Jennifer, to introduce our speakers. Go ahead, please, Jennifer.
Thanks, Barbara. Well, I have to say, first up, I've never been called an eventer before, but thank you. So I'd also like to welcome everyone along to this holiday stories celebration. And this is also a celebration of, we're celebrating our family stories and the end of the year. And we're also celebrating today everything that Speaker's Corner has been this year. Barbara and I are just very grateful to everyone for their enthusiasm and immediate acceptance of this storytelling event. It's been wonderful. So we started it in August, and this is our fifth event now. We have had eight storytellers who have come along and jumped onto our virtual box that we love. And all of those speakers are coming back today in either this session, split up between this session and the next session, as there are just too many to give everyone a fair chance of telling their story. So these stories will be shorter and just to allow each guest the time to share their story. So I think you don't want to hear from me. We want to hear from our guests. So I'll jump right into it and perhaps I'll introduce each guest as they speak. And we'll have to say we'll stick to the usual format that I love, alphabetical order, as the Christian name. So first up, we have Aaron Youngless from Genealogy by Aaron. Aaron was my guest in September and spoke about, you may remember the Salem witch trials, and that was wonderful to hear about. So it's great to have you here today, Aaron. Over to you. Tell us your story.
So my holiday story is actually it's not about witches. Though maybe I should have came up with one about witches for the Christmas season, but it's just about growing up in my family, the traditions that we have and had, and partly things change with traditions just because of time in life. And in my case, I'm vegan, and I grew up in an Italian family and a Czech family, so lots of meat. And then, so growing up, especially my Italian side, my Italian grandmother lived with us. So every year we would make cookies, and we would make something called pizzelles, and they look like waffle cookies, but they're very thin. And over the years, I've not been able to have them anymore because of allergies in my families and having to become vegan. So the Christmas story is just trying to figure out how to reinvent your your traditions in order to carry them on, and then understanding that carrying them on in this new way is still the tradition because it's about sharing that. And so for me, food is always going to be the Christmas story. And this year I have managed to figure out how to make the perfect vegan pizzelle. So that is my very exciting news for everybody on here.
Oh, that's so great, Aaron. And I understand your frustration because my daughter was vegan, and every Christmas it was a real thing to try and come up with things that were interesting and exciting for her, and also for everyone else too. So yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. So that's wonderful. So now we have Bill Moore from Family History with Bill Moore. Bill was here in September with Aaron, and he told us about his two very resilient great-grandmothers. So, Bill, I'm pleased that you could come back today. So, over to you.
I guess I'm continuing with the cookie theme. Uh,
Yeah, right.
and Aaron, I do make pizzelles too, but um, I also have Czechs in my family background. So last year for Christmas, I actually made kolaches and klobasnikis. to take over to my in-laws' house. They had no idea what they were or how much work they were, but they ate them. Um, but the story I was going to tell actually goes way back to I was probably in first or second grade, I guess. Um, we lived in some apartments in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and a couple that lived a few doors down from us, very nice German people, the Llewellyns, and um, Mrs. Llewellyn was a great cook, but she made a German cookie called Lebkuchen, um, which is in translated would be love cakes. Um, they're well, they're basically a gingerbread, but with fruitcake candy mixed in, and then a glaze on the top, and just really good and really smell the house up nicely with um, with the scents from the ginger and all the the spices that are in it. But that became a tradition for our family. Um, One that I've carried on. Some of the other members of the family don't make them, but always ask me for them. So my mom was up here a couple of weeks ago, and so we took advantage of that time. One of the things with the lid cushions is they have to uh, really sit for a week or two to let the flavors marinate a bit, and they're much better if they last that long. But I have a habit of doesn't matter where I try to hide them from myself, I'll find them and eat them. But
Yeah.
made a batch with my mom, which we haven't been able to do in many years. I mean, I've been living up here for 30 years now, so uh, we hadn't cooked together in a long time. But we had fun making those and reminiscing. Um, she took them home with her, so I only got what I managed to steal to eat that day. Um, but my sister and whatever cousins happen to drop by to visit her, we'll have a little treat this year for Christmas. Um,
Yeah.
but Christmas cookies were always a big thing for us, and um, big thing for my in-laws family too. My mother-in-law, before she passed, we called her the Queen of Christmas. She decorated her place. She lived in an apartment with the smallest kitchen I've ever seen in my life, and would crank out dozens of cookies and 10, 12 different varieties. I still don't know how she did it, but I've had to continue that tradition on for the family. So actually, starting here in the next couple of days, I'll be uh, doing in full-time baking duty. But that's really one of the things that I love doing around Christmas. I don't have Christmas decorations here in my office, other than my front window has all sorts of lights on it. Um, the rest of the apartment looks like Santa Claus came in and threw up all over my living room because we've got all sorts of stuff in there. Anyway, it's one of my favorite times of year, and
Yeah.
I enjoy being able to uh, carry on the traditions as best I can.
Yeah. That's great, Bill. Love hearing about Christmas cookies. Cookies at any time, but Christmas cookie traditions, that's great. And your the way you spoke about baking with your mum, that was just beautiful. Yeah, yeah,
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So now I'd like to introduce you to Diane Burley from Musings of a Storyteller. Diane came in October and shared the story of Leonora, who left a huge legacy in her family. So looking forward to another story from you today, Diane. Go ahead.
Well, I'll quickly do a quick plug for my mom's nuts and meringue recipe so that I can get that included in the show notes
Yeah.
here. But I'm sort of staying away from food, and you'll probably understand why in a minute. Um, but I did call my Aunt Molly, who's 103 and often appears in my stories because I really find it fun to be able to bring in that other generation, and it keeps my mom alive too. So I called her for inspiration when I had a panic attack about what I was going to say today. And she didn't really give me anything that I could go with. She did mention that one time they went to their grandpa, they always went to their grandpa's farm on Christmas Day. And one time it was snowing so hard that they were only able to take horse-drawn sleighs home. So I thought, oh,
Right.
horse-drawn sleighs. Well, I don't think my, brown minivan story is going to be able to hold the same weight, but we would take the kids between New Jersey, where Tim's family lived, to Buffalo every year because all the grandchildren were within 3 years. So it was really a delightful time having all these grandbabies running around and getting them together. And so we had this tradition, if you will, of getting together every Christmas Eve with the kids. And then we moved so we used to do Christmas in New Jersey and then the couple days before Christmas, obviously, and then we would do Christmas Eve at my family's in Buffalo. So that 400-mile sleigh ride in a minivan, where we had to recreate Christmas and drag all the gifts and have wrapping paper that the kids hadn't already seen because they're little sleuths. We decided to move to Buffalo. So now we had to do everything in reverse. We would do Christmas Eve with my family. We would get up in the morning and then we would schlep back to New Jersey so we could have dinner Christmas night with Tim's family. And we did this for years. And one year, my youngest got really sick. He had a really high fever. So we couldn't give him his gift, which was a much coveted hamster that Mama Grinch here had said no to the rodent for a couple of years. And then when I finally got this plaintive letter that begged, the only gift he wanted in the whole wide world was this hamster, my husband and I relented and we went out and got the hamster and the whole gymnastics thing for the hamster. And he was sick with a high fever. Like we couldn't have our Christmas morning. And we were so excited to give him his hamster, right? Because he wanted this so badly. So we had to watch a few episodes, or I'm sorry, a few on repeat, A Christmas Story, which is one of our favorite things to do on Christmas morning, until he was feeling better, until the Motrin and Tylenol kicked in. So finally, this poor little tyke comes downstairs and he's, just comes to the couch and we show him his hamster. We're so excited. He's like, oh, yeah. And promptly goes right back to sleep. So we had to get to New Jersey. So he's finally feeling better. We bundle him up. We stick him in the car with his new hamster Cookie and Alex. And Alex is now watching Kicking and Screaming for about the 9 billionth time. At some point later in the future, we realized we were watching it with him and we'd never seen it. We'd always heard it in the backseat of the minivan. We never saw the movie. So anyway, I digress. We're driving along. Bill will appreciate this. We're driving through Syracuse, which Tim always calls the Bermuda Triangle of storms. There's always something going on, some precipitation of some sort. And we get to the other side of it, and I realize it's pitch dark out. It's after 6. Nothing's going to be open for food. Everything's going to close. It's Christmas Eve. So we veer off the road in Cortland, New York. We go past our stalwarts of Subway and McDonald's, and there's nothing. Nothing's open. There's not a light to be found. We go around a corner and we find an open Chinese restaurant. And we pull up and we go, okay, we're going to go in and eat. And James opens his eyes and looks up and it says China Moo because the N has burned out. And he's like, oh, China Moo for dinner. That was our Christmas Eve. And so I'm calling the kids saying, what's our best Christmas tradition that I can tell this wonderful group of people? And they said, China Moon, China Moon, going to China Moon. I was like, okay. So it's our Christmas story is China Moon, and no ducks were harmed in the process. So there you go.
Thanks,
An
Diane.
important clarification for our friends outside of the United States who may not be familiar with the movie A Christmas Story. You must explain the part about the Chinese restaurant.
So that she had
And
made a
even the
wonderful
duck.
dinner. She made a wonderful dinner, and unfortunately, what came in the house? Dogs? A bunch of
Yeah.
dogs came in the house and
Neighbors,
got
the
the dinner,
neighbors, the
dragged
neighbor's
ca-
dog,
and
the
ate
turkey.
the dinner. So they ended up having to go to a Chinese restaurant. They're the only ones in there, and they come out and they serve this giant duck, and they, have the cleaver right there, and everybody's sort of horrified.
Horrified. Thank you.
Anyway, that's so we cannot drive, Bill,
It's a
on
great
the
movie.
way without going China Moon. It's
It is a hysterical movie.
Yeah, and we love it here too. We love it here too. And I loved your story about China Moo, Diane, and the Christmas hamster, not hamper, hamster. So yeah, that was great. So now we have Kyla, Kyla Byang from Root Squad Roundup, soon to be Roots Tech Roundup, I'm sure. Kyla joined us just last month and spoke to us about the journey that her family took to get to America, the incredible journey that they took. So I'm happy to have you back again, Kyla. So over to you.
Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So my story today is my best childhood Christmas. So just a little bit of a backstory. I am the baby. Both of my sisters, my closest sister is 13 years older than I am. So 13, 14, and then my brother is 18 years older than me. So my parents are obviously a lot older than all of my friends' parents ever were. They were more like grandparents. And then I had the two teenage moms, right? Besides my mom, I had those two teenage moms growing up. So obviously I am very spoiled rotten. Like Christmas was all about me for many, many years, right? So as my sisters got married, my brother went off to the Navy, so he wasn't around near as much. But as my sisters both got married, they're newlyweds and they're so excited. Anyway, so yeah. And my mother absolutely is Christmas queen. Like she loved everything Christmas, sparkles and everything. It didn't really matter how anyway. How tacky, that's what I'm trying to say. It didn't really matter. It's Christmas. it's Christmas. It's fine. Anyway, so the year that I'm talking about, I think I was 11. And so we had always had a big giant Christmas at our house, obviously, and I was the center of the whole thing pretty much. Right. So, but this Christmas was the first one that I'm pretty sure it's the first one that we ever didn't have at our house. So the two, they had married and moved away, but they always came in on Christmas Eve, and we did the whole thing. But for some reason this year, we decided to go to my youngest sister, closest to me. Her name's Melba. We decided to go to Melba's house for Christmas. And instead of being upset about that, like I was excited. It was something new, right? It was different. I don't know. I was very excited to go do that. Anyway, so she and her husband had a rented trailer, like what do you call it? A mobile home, right? So a new one, very new, very fancy. I thought it was very cool that it was all, in a line in a row. Anyway, so we get there and everybody gets there and we do all of the normal. We have all kinds of traditions that we do on Christmas Eve. We open one present, we put out cookies and milk and, the whole bit. We all have Christmas pajamas. My mother would buy us all matching Christmas pajamas if she could, or the guys would get t-shirts, whatever. But anyway, everybody had to match to open our one Christmas present. So anyway, everything is perfectly fine and spend the night. So I got to sleep. They had in the bedroom, my sister's bedroom, the closet had a mirror that were doors. right? That would slide back and forth like this. And so I got to sleep inside the closet. I thought it was so fun. It was dark in there, right? And little did I know that they were just trying to hide me from everything, right? Christmas. But anyway, but that's okay. Anyway, so the next morning we get up, and the first thing that we always do, okay, so we also have a very big tradition. Let me show you this. Can you see this?
Yep.
This is our stocking size. Everybody in the family gets one of these, this big. So this is the first thing that we do. We open all of our stockings, and it's food and, toiletries, kind of boring things, but it's still a lot of fun. Anyway, and then the way that we open presents is somebody passes them all out. Usually, grandpa passes all of the presents out, and then they say go, and we open them all at the same time. So it's kind of just a madhouse of we'll stop every once in a while. If you've got somebody something and you know what it looks like, you stop and watch them if you want to while they're opening it. But for the most part, everybody just opens like crazy madhouse, right? Paper throwing everywhere. It's really fun. Anyway, so we get all almost done. And I have normal things. I got socks. I got, all the exciting things that I those in those days. I really liked hair bows. I still do. I still like jewelry, all those. But anyway, got all the normal things. And then I look over there, and there's two really big boxes still by the tree. And then so everybody's like, okay, well, these are both for you. And I thought, oh, okay. So I go over to open. I go, which one? And they're about the same size, right? So I go over there and I open up the first one, and it is okay. So this is late 70s, y'all. And the thing I wanted most in the world for Christmas was a beanbag chair. Right. So that's what I wanted. And that's what it was. It was this gorgeous, like just brown leather. I don't know. You know what it looked like in that era. Picked it up, sit down in the chair. All right. I'm happy as I possibly can. I got exactly what I wanted for Christmas. And then I look over there, and I'm thinking the other box is about the same size. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm very social person. Y'all probably know that about me by now. And so I just thought, okay, well, that's probably just another one for my friends, right? That's why there's two of them. Okay, so hold on. Let me get my phone open because I'm going to show you what it was. Just a second. So I go over there and I took one look, and I remember everybody in my family's got the biggest grin on their face than I could possibly imagine. And I open up that box, and look what it was.
Oh,
Puppy.
oh.
And he looks just, this is a little bit older, like when he was a little bit older, but he was smaller than this, completely just bound of energy. Just, oh my goodness, it was so crazy. And it was kind of like you said, I had given up because I had wanted a puppy for so long, and it just wasn't ever going to happen, and there he was. Oh my goodness. And he looks like a teddy bear. His name is Teddy Bear. He was already named even for me. And I was just blown away, completely blown away. No clue, never, not a hint. Nothing gave it away at all, y'all. And let me show you this real quick if you can see this. See this little gray building, right? I mean, this gray thing right here? In the back of our house, this is my dad's workshop. In the back of our house, he had this like a camper trailer that he would put on top of his truck when we went camping. And that's where they kept that puppy for 2 weeks before it was out there the whole time. And I didn't know it at all. Or getting it there, he didn't make a peep until Christmas morning through all the stuff. Anyway, it was just the best Christmas ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
A puppy for Christmas, you can't. I mean, really. How can you beat that? Only with a pussycat.
Right?
And a favourite chair.
A little sister might have been better, but other than that,
you're probably never going to get that. So
no, way past that point.
I love that. I really love that story, Carla. It was great.
Thank you.
Did remind me though, our Christmases were a little bit similar with the chaos of opening the presents. No one, when we were little, we didn't care what the others got. We just, everyone opened them all at once. And when my first Christmas with my partner, which was only probably 12 years ago. So, I was old by then. I couldn't believe they loved Christmas, like they were right into it. And you would think everything would be chaotic, but I couldn't believe how planned and, calm they were with they'd have someone in the middle of the circle who'd hand a present out to someone, and then someone else, then they'd hand it to someone else, but you would do nothing till they unwrap their present.
Right.
And so you just go around the circle one at a time. I was just like, how great is that? I just thought that was very cute.
That's exactly what my husband's family did too. Like
Oh.
they would hand them all out, but everybody
Yeah.
would wait, and then we would go around the table, around the room, and open them one at a time. And
Yeah.
like that in a circle. And it was like, wait, what? But
Yeah.
it worked. Like you said, like I think was it you, Diane, that said like you modify the traditions when you have to, right?
Yeah, they do. And as your family grows, they change, don't they?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I can remember it wasn't Christmas, it was birthdays, but family tradition. We don't have many in our family, but I tried to create one with my family, and we went to this particular restaurant every year if it was your birthday for breakfast. And that worked really well till they got to about 15. They weren't going to get out of bed early and go for breakfast then. So yeah, family traditions do change, don't they?
Right. Absolutely.
Barbara, I saw in the chat you said about might be an idea to share some recipes.
Exactly. Well, as many of these, exchanging, you and I haven't quite coordinated this yet, but it occurred to me that when I have two events on the same day, it's a little awkward to be emailing both of them to my list. It's a little, I hate to wear out the welcome. I think all of you as Substackers will understand that. So it dawned on me, I can combine these two. So we have one video stream, and then that gives all of you a little extra time and a little head start for the folks in the Pacific time window to think about recipes that you might want to share of, since so many of these conversations are surrounding food. Come on, got something? It's perfectly fine to tell us where cite your sources as appropriate. It doesn't have to be that uniquely invented recipe. My own is a Sunset Magazine Best of series, which I don't think they can afford to do anymore, and all the better to promote the old ones. But pass it along. If you get them to me before the time the Pacific one starts, I'll do my best to include it. And if I don't include it, send it to me anyway, knock on my door and say, "Psst, you forgot me." And I'll go edit the post and pretend it didn't happen. Because we that's how we roll.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea, And I'm imagining you've probably got some interesting food traditions in your family, have you, for Christmas?
I do, but we'll hold on to that one for now.
Yeah, hold on to that till the next session. Yeah. So I'm just wondering if anyone would like to share some of those food traditions that they've got on top of our normal traditions while we're here. We have a little bit of time up our sleeve, don't we? Yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Something I had forgotten all about, because when you put out a call, I thought, I don't really have anything, but this is kind of neat, is Christmas Eve, when I was a kid, we would have dinner, and we'd eat, I don't know how early we'd eat, but everybody would come over, including everybody would be grandparent. I don't think the grandparents came over. Yeah, I guess they did. Yeah, the grandparents came over, and my siblings, and my oldest sibling was married. So she and her husband came over. You had the meal and everything. So we're waiting for Santa, because Santa always came Christmas Eve. And only Christmas Eve, I don't know why he got us early, but he did, because everybody else got theirs at Christmas Day. And I know why. Mom says she did that because she didn't want us staying up all night. So that's why she had Christmas Eve. Had Christmas on Christmas Eve. Anyway, so it would be getting kind of dark. And every year, my oldest sister that was married, said, why don't we go out and see the Christmas lights? And, and so we pile it, and, her husband said, yeah, let's go. So all the kids, and, of course, mom and dad and everybody else stayed home. We went and looked at Christmas lights. We got back, and Santa had been there. He had came and we were gone. So every year we would go, as I got older, I'm saying, I'm not going. I want to see
No.
Santa. And they said, "Oh no, Linda, he's not gonna, you're gonna not go miss him this year. This year you're not gonna miss him." And of course, I was the youngest, and my his older siblings, they go, "Oh no, Linda, we won't miss him," and they already knew the whole thing.
Yeah.
So then finally, when I was old enough, then we didn't do that. But it was just so ridiculous how long I kind of was sucked into it. When you're the youngest, I mean, they try to pull all kinds of things on you. So that was it. It was funny.
Yeah. So did anyone else happy for anyone to share anything they wanted to about their Christmas? Maybe there's another Christmas story or recipe or food or yeah.
Well, I'll slip in. I'll slip in
Yeah.
with my my food recipe, my food story. I've got another one, but
Yeah.
I'll come with the food story.
Yeah.
And that is simply that as I shared, not to push SEO or anything, but as I shared in my story all about the rolling ball of hay, I did not know a lot about my dad growing up. And I had heard, sort of the only little narrative that I had as we were forming a family of our own and trying to form our own family traditions was that our family was from Germany. So, okay. They all spoke German at home, so all German. And okay, well, what's German in Christmas? So I thought about all those fancy, those turning candles, which turn out to be, I guess, more Swedish anyway, but never mind. They're foreign, I don't know. So I discover Stolen, which it turns out I rather like. And so I started looking around for Stolen recipes that I could make that it took me years to figure out how to handle yeast. I finally get it now, but I didn't know how to handle yeast. And there is a quick bread method for making Stolen, and it's pretty darn tasty. So I started making Stolen. It's a German Stolen, which is kind of like a giant scone or scone,
Yeah.
as you would say, and it's pretty darn delicious. And then I discovered, no, sorry, generations in Switzerland, nothing to do directly with Germany. There was German married into, but not really German. So I decided that's okay. I like the Stolen. And I have so many little variations to the recipe now, and I would be delighted to share it. It's a lovely one, and the secret is skip the rum and go for amaretto, good amaretto, and two,
Ooh.
double dose the cardamom. When in doubt, add more cardamom, but be careful out there.
Yeah.
There you go.
And would you believe I actually have had Stolen? Being as multicultural as we are here in Australia, you can buy it in the supermarkets these days.
Yeah.
So it's great. Yeah.
In a sense, the frequency of availability now is kind of ruining my story. I'll be honest. You get them at Trader
It is.
Joe's and all kinds of ordinary grocery stores. So I'm a little disappointed by that, but I still maintain that mine is better. So I would make it for all of you if I could, but
of course you would.
duties.
And I was just about to say, of course, yours would have been better. Yeah.
I don't make very many things.
So I'm going to tell in the next session about my grandmother. But I've got another little one. If we have a little bit of time there, don't we? That I couldn't choose between the two. And this is just a memory about my father also. So Christmas in Australia when I was a child, was very hot, and climate change and all that stuff. It's not quite so hot now till later, but you always went swimming on Christmas Day in the afternoon. Yeah, and you always got bathers in your stocking. Didn't matter if you needed them or not. You always had new bathers to wear on Christmas Day. So after our Christmas lunch, which will be my next story, we would go home and just lay around in the heat, no air conditioners those days, for a while until we, recovered from all that food. And then Dad would say, "We're going swimming, go and get everybody." So everybody would be, my three cousins lived next door, so that would be them, and all the kids in the neighbourhood that we played with. So we'd go up and down the streets, and there'd probably be 15 kids might come. And Dad had a ute, a pickup truck, you would call it. So 2 seats in the front and everyone get in the back. So there was no laws or rules about seatbelts or anything in those days. So all the kids would pile into the back of the ute, and down we'd go to the pool. And it was a huge pool, absolutely huge. You couldn't possibly look after all those kids in that pool. So we would all scatter. Dad would sit under a tree and read a book. Who knew what was happening in the pool? And then he'd try to gather us all up at the end, and load us back into the ute. And we were all girls, but there was one boy, my cousin. There was only one boy in the neighbourhood. He would refuse every year. He would refuse to get out of the pool. So we'd all go to try and get him out. So that'd be another hour. So we finally pile into the back of the ute and off we'd go home. And, I just have a picture of Dad doing that. Dad was very quiet. And I have a picture of him doing that every year. It was just such a little thing, but it was a huge thing about Christmas for us, even though it wasn't a Christmas thing. But yeah.
Wow.
So I'm sure you weren't swimming. All of you weren't swimming at Christmas. Oh, yes,
I was.
you would have been, Barbara.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hawaii.
of
Yeah,
course.
that's what we do.
Yeah.
Mele
Yeah.
Maka.
Yeah.
Not in Cleveland. Not in Cleveland.
No.
Not unless you want to do the polar bear plunge, and I never wanted to do the polar bear plunge.
But in SoCal, do you do, sort of beach holidays, or is it still too cold in the water?
We did up until this past January, and I haven't really been back to the beach since the fires because the beach wasn't really safe for a long time. So hopefully next year. But that was our tradition when we first moved here, everything. We nicknamed beaches. So we would have this is the Easter beach and this is the birthday beach. And to this day, people will be like, what beach are you going to? And we'll be like, oh, the Easter beach. And then we'll have to stop and be like, I mean, Zuma. We're going to Zuma Beach in Malibu because my son was little. So we'd always have fun little names for him.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So we don't, because we live right in the centre of Australia, so we're a long way from the beach. But of course, Australians all go to the beach for Christmas. But we also have very traditional hot Christmas lunches on 100-degree days without air conditioning. Back in those days, there was no air conditioning, and it didn't matter. You just had your hot traditional lunch. Didn't matter at all. So I'd like to hear if anyone would have anything to contribute about, your Christmas food. Does a Christmas lunch for you, I guess, is similar to an English Australian Christmas lunch? Would that be right? Hot roast turkey and all the works?
I'll go. In my family, it was always ravioli or lasagna.
Oh.
Yeah, we always had a
right.
really big Italian feast, and I make lasagna because it's just easier, which sounds weird. But making ravioli from scratch is not nearly as easy as we'd like to think. But yeah, we would have that and all the fixings that went with it, and then cannoli for dessert.
We did the same thing, lasagna, manigote. We'd make all of the manigote up ahead of time, and there'd be 10 of us in the kitchen making them. Be so much fun.
Yeah.
And usually a big roast pork loin or something like that, stuffed with red pepper and spinach to make it like a wreath when you cut it.
Yeah. And I'm drooling now.
We would do we always have tamales on Christmas Eve, and then regular, our Christmas would be turkey, a lot just like Thanksgiving, the same turkey dressing, green jello,
Our Thanksgiving is lasagna.
Green bean casserole. Ugh. Anyway,
Really?
those things.
Who still make that too? A friend of mine still makes that, and I go, oh yeah, it's terrible. We always had Christmas Day was ham, And then I got into, as I got older, I got into baking bread, and I would bake uh, challah or challah is the Jewish bread, and or I make things out of trees but my mom always loved Pepperidge Farm ones, so she would buy those too. And so I thought, oh, I can't compete against, I mean, I can't believe they wouldn't want homemade from scratch stuff.
Yeah,
But that was kind of, so I did it several years and then I said, forget it. But then you had all your other stuff like um, your celery stuffed in peanut butter. Of course, that was my job.
Cheese
I did
whiz.
that and some kind of cheese whip or something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Pimento cheese, that's what it was.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's just fantastic to hear about everyone's memories, especially for me when they're so different. What you're doing over there, even though it's similar, it's very different to what's happening here. Yeah, yeah. So it's very quiet for us at Christmas now, and that's good too. We just do it differently. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So did you have anything you wanted to add, Barbara?
Oh no, only the sympathy for a hot oven of the foods that heat
Yeah,
up the whole house, like a roast turkey or you know, uh, cookies even. To me, baking
yeah,
cookies is an exercise in warming up the house.
yeah,
And that was something that we certainly did avoid in Hawaii, although for us, Christmas time would come during the coldest time of the year where,
yeah,
it was going to be 70 degrees, 75 for a high. That's just
yeah,
outrageous. How can anybody live that
yeah,
way? Um, and in our family, we do very loyally do turkey for Thanksgiving, and it's only a month and a half or 2 months to Christmas.
yeah,
But for Christmas, we have it depends. We had for many years switched to doing a big standing rib roast, like a good English roast. I specialize in the Yorkshire pudding myself. And our both daughters have become very serious cooks. So now this will be since 2020, this will be the fifth Christmas we've spent in Portland as a family. So gathering in Portland where our elder daughter now lives, with a smaller kitchen, but she is quite the cook. So
yeah.
I can't say what she's going to do. I can only hope to have some little thing I can contribute to it. But I think I'm going to get on the cookie train here.
Oh, you can't go wrong there, Barbara. Cookies are always a win.
I
Well,
love the idea of cookies that are those roll-up cookies that you can just stick in the freezer and then quickly cut and bake
Yeah,
for whoever it is that's showing up saying, "Oh, I just baked some cookies."
yeah, yeah,
That's always nice. The New York Times has some fabulous recipes and a whole cookie edition every year, as do, I suppose, many, many publications.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Last week was
gingerbread
Cookie
cookies
Week
and
at the
everything.
Times.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're saying about the hot roast and the hot house and all that. So when we were young, of course, there was no air conditioning. But as we got a little bit older, still going to my grandmother's for lunch, she then had air conditioning, but we weren't allowed to use it on Christmas Day because she said it made the food go cold. So we sat there still in our 100-degree heat and ate our hot lunch. Um, so what these stories all bring up for me is that how wonderful it is to tell the stories of our families, and how important and actually essential it is to tell those stories. I think, like most of us write our family stories and write about our families all the time, and that's really great. And it's not to say that oral stories are more important, but it's important to record and archive our stories, so keep writing them. But I think a story told orally is a totally different thing, and we sort of heard that today. How different it is just to hear the story in our own words. And I think we have to keep telling those stories orally. And I think Christmas time is the best time, a great time to tell those stories, isn't it? I think most of you have made me laugh. Your stories have had little snippets of something funny in them. So, we can make our families laugh with our stories and then get on to seriously telling them the stories and making them listen, as we like to think we often do, but we usually can't. But it's a great time, Christmas time, to do that. And I think sometimes when you go to write a story, it's you might not know where to start, but if you're able to tell that story out loud, sometimes it clears a space for you to know where to begin. And then once you begin, you usually write, aren't you? So
I think
yeah.
as my kids have gotten old, I think as my kids have gotten older, I was
Yeah.
and actually preparing for this, I really was struggling.
Yeah.
I was thinking, do we even have traditions once, the family spread out? And I was a little sad about it. And but then I realized my kids are now doing it in their respective homes. They have the tree and they want to do handmade ornaments. And so, I use this for tomorrow's piece that I'm publishing, and this idea that it's an evolution. The traditions do evolve. And I think that's part of the gift of just giving people permission to celebrate in whatever way.
Yeah. And I think your kids are probably doing their traditions differently, but you've passed on, the love of wanting to have a tradition and how important it is to them. So
Right.
yeah, I think that's great. Yeah.
I
Did
have a friend who tells a story about his there's a special pan in their house that they cook the ham in, and it's handed down from his mother, and it's handed down from the grandmother, and maybe even her mother or whatever. And so when he finally asks the question as to why they're using that pan, right? It's small, and they would always cut the ham in half. So they always had to cut it in half to put it in there. So they would only cook half of it. That's what I was going to. It made me think of it because they did half for Thanksgiving and half for Christmas. So they just froze the other half, and that was like their tradition. And then when he asked about it, is because it was the only pan that they had that one year, and she did it that way, and it worked.
Yeah.
And so
it just continued.
Accidental tradition.
Yeah.
So
probably
some
of the best traditions are probably incidental, aren't they?
Right?
Yeah. That turned out to be a great one.
Passing it down.
Yeah.
Fun, right?
Jennifer.
Yeah.
In our family, my son is the fourth generation here in Canada, and we still do the traditional Christmas dinner that Grandma and Grandpa used to have, and my mom and dad and myself, and now him. Yeah. We still do the traditional things. Yeah. Look at that. Almost the same. Yep.
Yeah.
So some of it did carry on. Now they don't make Christmas cake, but I still do, and things like that, or Christmas pudding. But yeah, other than that, the traditional dinner is the same. Yeah. So that's kind of touching for me.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I love that. Yeah. And we've gone back to that ourselves with my children when they were young. Went a little bit awry when Mum wasn't going to cook a hot Christmas dinner. Of course, I don't blame her, on Christmas, in 100-degree heat. So we went outside and had Christmas under a tree with, barbecue or salads or something for a few years. And that was great too, but it was different. So we've gone back to the traditions too. Yeah. Did anyone have anything else? So I don't want to miss anyone. We're getting on towards the end. Okay, so before I forget, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Barbara just for facilitating this session and everything she does. We all know how much Barbara does, and all behind the scenes, we don't know how much she does, but we know it's a lot. And I remember the day Barbara came up about Speaker's Corner, and I felt like running out the door. I really did. It just wasn't something I ever thought I would ever do, as much as I love the idea of telling the stories. But I have absolutely loved it. I have really loved it. And so, I'd really like to thank Barbara for having faith in me, to think that I can help her build on what she's been doing. And thank you for all the hearts there. They make me cry. So yeah, Barbara, you just deserve a medal. You really do. And I'd also like to sort of probably tell you about what's happening in January. So we will be back at the normal time in January with Speakers Corner. So the second Thursday or Friday, depending on where you are in the world. And next month we will be having Marion from what's Marion's News? Marion's News. Marion Beeman from Marion's News is going to come along and tell us a story. And Xanthi Hall. Her publication, I'll have to read it, is X Factored Family Stories. I can never get that one right. So they're going to come and talk about surprises that sometimes get locked away in our families. So I'm very interested to hear about those stories. So before I hand back to Barbara, I'd also like to wish everyone all the best for the holiday time and have a wonderful time with your families. I hope you get to tell one or two of those stories to interested ears and get no eye rolling while you're there. But have a lovely time and a restful break and stay safe, and we'll see you back in the new year. Unless we see you this afternoon, of course. So I'll hand over to you, Barbara.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I think we all, to be very clear, this was Jennifer's idea. All I did was say yes. And it is a real thrill. Not only did she kick off the idea for the Speaker's Corner approach, but really rocked my world to help me see how powerful this is in terms of creating an opportunity for people to tell their stories. We often, we talk all day long about how important it is to capture our stories and blah, 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 blah. And we write our stories and blah, blah, blah. But honestly, down deep, what really matters the most is having an audience to listen and to capture those. And we also, I think, know that as family historians and maybe pedigreed genealogists, that it's a calling and you're either called for it and maybe you're not called yet, but once you're there, you're all in, and not everybody is ready for it yet. Having an environment where we can tell our stories to an adoring audience and capture that audience and capture it in the different ways in which stories happen. I'm really honored to sort of be here at the time. And as Jennifer kept going with the Speaker's Corner, it suddenly dawned on me that a really important part of this is making sure that the recordings of these events be yours. So yes, I promote them and present them as part of Project Kin in order to inspire others. But I'm also always happy to make the recordings of the raw recordings, in other words, the MP4 file, available to anybody, any one of our speakers. I am just learning to better organize my files to make sure that I can instantly make it available to you. But always happy to do that. Tap on my shoulder is probably a favor to me to remind me to make sure to clean up that vein of an event. And I am going a little extra time to go do that across the boards. I do think that's very, very important, as are every single one of these stories and remembrances, even if you don't know yet who that audience is, to hear them. It's been a privilege to be here. We delighted. There is something very special that happens as a community. So again, you are all very welcome to come back in a few hours for our Pacific edition, where we have a different set of stories. I'll combine the two of these into one video stream and include as many of your recipes or links to recipes, including links to your own site. Always happy. In fact, I will do that for anybody that includes any recipe. But also, to be able to make it quick and easy to follow those recipes, because that's where the creativity lies as we express, tradition and family and what connects us. Again, thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Till next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you later.
Goodbye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again. I'm Barbara Etienne with Project Kin in our Pacific edition of this remarkable series for celebrating our Speaker's Corner holiday program. For this, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Jones to introduce herself and our guest today. Go ahead, please, Jennifer.
Thanks, Barbara. So I'm Jennifer Jones from Tracking Down the Family. And I'd also like to welcome everyone along to this Speaker's Corner holiday edition. Actually, it's a celebration of Speaker's Corner and celebration of the end of a great 2025 in Project Kin. Yeah. So we are also going to really celebrate what Speaker's Corner has been this year, because the start of the year it was nothing, and we had our first event in August, and it's been really great ever since. People have been willing to step up onto our virtual soapbox, and we've heard some really wonderful stories on many different themes and many different topics. So today, we're having two sessions today, and we've had one, but we split it into two because we had so many guests, and we had some guests from the Pacific side of the world and some guests from the Atlantic side of the world. So just to keep everyone happy and to suit everyone, we split it up, and we had an absolutely wonderful session this morning with great stories, lots of laughs, and Christmas joy. Really looking forward to hearing the stories from our speakers today. So I think we might just go straight to our guests and let them have a chat instead of hearing from me. So first up, alphabetical order as usual, we have Anne Young from Anne's Family History. So Anne was my very first guest in August. I was so grateful to Anne for a couple of reasons. I really wasn't sure about asking anyone to come along and speak on Speaker's Corner because, I loved the idea and Barbara loved the idea, but I wasn't sure whether everyone else would love the idea. So Anne just did not hesitate. She just straight away, yes, I'll do it. So, but then an extra ask that I had for Anne was that she speak about someone that wasn't in her family. So I had planned to speak about Carolyn Chisholm, but it was too big a story for me to do by myself. So I asked Anne to tell half of that story. And once again, Anne didn't hesitate, and she jumped in and she spent hours doing lots of research, going down lots of rabbit holes, and I did that, so I know Anne did too. It was very, very time consuming, and it was just great that Anne sort of jumped in and said she would do that with me. So today I'm looking forward to hearing another story from Anne. So over to you, Anne.
This morning I reposted on Substack a post I'd done a few years ago about making Christmas puddings. And my background is German. I'm in Australia, of course, but my grandparents and mother emigrated from Germany after World War II. And most of my Christmases were spent with my maternal grandparents. And we celebrated on Christmas Eve. We had a tree. Presents were handed out. We had first we went to church. Then there were presents. Then there was a supper, and it was usually cold food: smoked salmon, cold turkey, ham, salads. These days, often we'll have prawns and seafood. And then, so some of those elements were adopted from Australia. So, it was sort of a merger. And my grandmother, one of the things my grandmother adopted was puddings, and they're definitely not German, but I love Christmas pudding. And nearly 40 years ago, yes, 40 years ago now, I did a cooking course and learned to make proper suet pudding, and have been making it every year since then. And it's the only time of year I use suet, so you have to go around to a butcher and get suet, which is the fat around the cow's kidneys. And it makes the pudding really melt and so on. We buy fruit in advance, dried fruit, and I always go to a health food store to do that, so that it's good quality, and then we soak it for a week in alcohol, either rum or whiskey or brandy. And so my post has pictures of me making the pudding back in 2020 with my son, who really enjoys doing that with me. And, we get fresh spices and grate them and things like that. So it's a steam pudding. We have a pudding basin, and I usually make two at a time. And then we serve it with brandy butter, which is equal parts, more or less, of brandy, icing sugar, and butter. Yeah. So it's called hard sauce, and you mix it up. The butters are slightly softer, and you mix it up, and then you set it in the fridge. And I have a nephew who only eats the hard sauce, forgets the pudding. But the other picture I've got is a picture in 2005, and we made a summer pudding that year too. So fresh berries and bread, and so the pudding basin is lined with bread, and then filled with fresh berries, and it's really delicious. So one year I can remember my parents were in Adelaide with my paternal grandmother, who'd been having an operation, and my brother and I were with my maternal grandparents. My grandmother produced a pudding, and she put brandy on it, because so what you do when you serve the pudding is you soak it in brandy and you set it alight, and there's beautiful blue flames. But she put so much brandy on that we all got bored. We had to walk away from the table while it was burning and burning and burning. It didn't char or anything like that. It just kept going. Another year, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, made a ice cream pudding, which we've only ever had once, but it was quite good. So soaked the fruit and mixed it in with vanilla ice cream. It was rather good. So yes, that's puddings. Now, recently I've been transcribing some letters from my great grandfather and his grandmother, so my third great grandmother. One was for Christmas in 1890, and I'm pretty sure they had pudding then. And I'm just working on one at the moment from 1902, and they definitely had Christmas pudding. What else they have? They had goose, chicken, ham, vegetables, plum pudding and cream, mince pies, raspberry jelly, and custard. And that sounds very much like a menu that we would have today. So
it does. Yeah.
probably not the goose. Yeah. Goose is
No.
rather a German thing, though, to have. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The earlier 1890 menu had parrot pie, which seemed a bit mysterious. I found a recipe for parrot pie in a Mrs. Beeton cookbook. And I imagine that they treated the parrots a bit like quails, so small birds, but a lot of bones, and they would have been really fiddly to dress and prepare and things like that. And I don't know that you want little birds in a pie, so do they
No.
take the bones out? I'm not sure. So do the Americans have Christmas pudding, suet puddings?
The Canadians
No?
do, but
Paula, that's you and me.
Linda and I are going, yeah, the Canadians do that, but that's probably our British, our common
Canadians.
Kyla,
Pudding's
Paula,
not on
help me
our
out
list
here.
of being on the table here now.
Actually, the recipe, the menu you just finished reading sounded a lot like Christmas dinners I've had in the past, including the goose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
No
the
pudding
same.
from Texas. Sorry.
No.
No.
No,
you people
we've
haven't lived until you
we've
have a
extended
good Christmas pudding.
That's right.
we've
It sounds
extended as
delicious.
far as trifle. And I know my Chinese husband would be very excited about something made with suet. I've had to lure him away from all the fat drippings from a roast and things like that because he's very excited about what we can do with it. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, he can have dessert with it now.
Thank you for clarifying. And Linda, I thank you for your contribution from our first episode as well. We're going to have a lot of fun on the topic of these foreign foods. You'll bear with me.
Absolutely. And I read your post about the parrot pie, and it just really made me stop and think. We are surrounded by parrots where we live.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh dear, I don't think I could eat a parrot pie. Sure I couldn't. But, back then, something special, something you wouldn't eat every
I guess
day.
it was something special, and
Yeah,
Mrs.
yeah.
Beaton approved of it. Obviously, she had a
Yeah,
whole section
absolutely.
on Australian dishes, and parrot pie
Yeah,
was
yeah.
amongst it. Yeah. So
And, being
I
in
don't know
Mrs.
whether
Beaton's,
that was where the idea came from for my
yeah,
great great great
it was
aunt.
probably considered a little bit posh, parrot pie, really,
Yeah,
because it's not an
possibly.
everyday food.
It's like quail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Are you still going, Anne? You've got to the end of your
No,
talk,
I
have you?
finished. Mhm.
Yeah. It was great. It was really great. And I also read your post this morning about the Christmas pudding, and it made me smile. My grandmother made the pudding with suet. My mother refused to, and when she took over the Christmas, and then when it came to me, I thought, no, I'm not doing that. So I do the non-suet, non-traditional pudding, which really upset my father at the time. So yeah. So that was great, Anne. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Now we'll go over to Kathy Stone, who we all know from Kathy's Corner. So before Kathy joined us as a guest on Speaker's Corner, it was last month in November actually, she didn't consider herself to be a family history storyteller. Kathy is our photo manager, but from listening to Kathy describing scenes on her photos, I knew she had a story inside her. So she came along and told us about her grandmother's trip to America, and she told a wonderful story. So Kathy's back now to tell us one of her family stories about the holidays. So over to you, Kathy.
Thanks, Jennifer. And again, I just have to say, doing that, thank you so much for having me on Speaker's Corner last month, because doing that has just triggered a flood of memories. And listening to you
Oh,
met the goose. I got a good story about a goose that caught on fire when we were cooking it. There are just so many stories that as soon as I get off, I got to go start writing these down. Apparently, we
yeah,
have adventure at my Christmases. So I thought instead of food, because we had very basic food, although, Anne, you did remind me about mincemeat pies too. We still have mincemeat tarts. We don't
yeah,
put suet in them anymore. At some point, that became, they don't have the suet in the mincemeat tart anymore. There's no meat in it. But boy, do I love mincemeat tarts. So you reminded me
yeah,
of my grandma's mincemeat tarts too. But I thought I'd go a little bit different away from the food and tell a story of an adventure, of a Christmas adventure that we had. And so this sort of picks up where I mentioned my grandmother. They eventually sold their farm, or well, they didn't sell it. They gave it back to the Hudson's Bay and moved to the town of Vermilion. And then they bought a house in Vermilion, and it was a two-bedroom house. So there was Grandpa's bedroom and Grandma's bedroom. And Vermilion, I lived in Edmonton at the time, another place in Alberta, Canada, about 3 hours. I'm going to tell you in hours instead of miles or kilometers, about 3 hours north of where I live now. And it was about a 2.5 hour drive then, because the highway wasn't, it's twin now, so it's probably faster, but it was like a two lanes in one lane in each direction. It wasn't divided, the highway we would take. And we'd go to my grandmother's and grandfather's for Christmas. And so they had this little two-bedroom house. And at that point in time, my mom and I were on our own. I had another aunt who was on her own with my two cousins, and then an aunt and uncle who had no kids. And so all of us would pile into Uncle Bill's station wagon. So four adults and four kids, we'd all pile into Uncle Bill's station wagon. And this is before the day of seatbelts. So you could cram that many people into cars, because
yeah,
probably three adults in the middle and one lucky adult got to sit in the back with all the kids in
and
the
the
back
kids.
seat, all three kids. And we the drive was, to me, it seemed really long back then, this drive. And we got to stop in a town called Vegreville, which is the home of the largest pasanka, the Ukrainian Easter eggs in the world, just in case you ever want to go see that. Um, it wasn't there when we were driving through, but we'd stop there and get snacks, and that was a big treat for us. You'd get chips and things, but we had the back of the station wagon all loaded up with presents because we were going to Grandma and Grandpa's for Christmas. And at their house, at their two-bedroom house, they had a two-bedroom house, and it was heated by a little furnace that was in the living room. So in the bedrooms, there was no heat. It radiated from the rest of the house. And they were a little chilly. And I'm not sure if it was the same beds that were on the farm or not from the 1920s, but my grandfather's bed had a V shape. So if you slept in it, if you were one of the lighter people and the heavy adult was in the middle, y'all rolled down into a pile in the middle of the bed. So it was a lot of fun. And I'm trying to think, where did all of us sleep with seven people? Grandpa always slept he'd always just he'd fall asleep on the couch. He would have gone to the Legion, which the Royal Canadian Legion for veterans. He would have had to stop at the Legion for a cup or two before, and he'd go to sleep on the couch. And my grandma would still sleep in her bed. But I'm thinking one of the other adults must have slept with my grandmother with a couple kids, and then two more adults must have slept in my grandpa's bed with two more kids. So it was very crowded. And so my mother decided that she said, do you know what? She said, and this was a big treat for us because up until then, I had probably only been in two motels in my life. She said, I'm going to book up, see if we can stay in a motel. We'll just sleep there overnight, and then we won't have to, fight for bed space in the house. So she booked us a motel, and we spent Christmas Eve at the house, and Uncle Bill drove us to the motel because we all went in one car. And during the night, we had something which is not unusual in Alberta in the winter, a massive storm. Temperature plummeted. Yesterday, there were people wearing shorts here. And today, your face freezes when you go outside. That's what the weather's kind of like in Alberta. You just never know what might happen. And so overnight, we got to Vermilion fine. Roads were okay. We had a massive snowstorm that dumped about 2 feet of snow on everything, blanketed everything with snow, and it was freezing. It was like -40, and we're in this little motel, which, if you've ever been in little old motel, Linda will know what I'm talking about. Prairie motels were like a string of little rooms in a row, and they weren't really warm. They were not fancy, and so Mom and I went to bed Christmas night and for our Christmas Eve for our sleep, and Uncle Bill was going to come and pick us up in the morning, and then we'd go and have breakfast with everybody and get on with opening presents and have Christmas Day. Unfortunately, all the snow that piled up meant that he couldn't even get out of the driveway of my grandma and grandpa's. The roads were impassable till the plows came through, and our motel had to drift the snow right up halfway up the door. So we weren't going anywhere, and the motels in those places did not have a restaurant with a continental breakfast or a buffet breakfast. That wasn't a thing. Don't even think we had a coffee pot in the room back then. And so we're stuck in the motel without breakfast. And my mom had an incredible sense of humor. That's if I ever have to describe my mom, that's the first thing I say is, oh, she loved to laugh. And so we were like, okay, well, here we're stuck here and we're laughing and joking about we're getting hungry and, could we trek through the snowbanks to grandma's? And thought, no, we'll have to wait. So she rummaged through a purse and found a partially leftover roll of Lifesavers and a tiny roll with one breath mint in it. So we shared 2 Lifesavers and a breath mint for our Christmas morning breakfast, and in the little motel snowed in Vermilion, Alberta. So finally we did get rescued and went there, but we had a lot of laughs that morning, and it was a Christmas story I will always remember. I have no pictures of the motel or anything. I'll have to go back and see if there's anything in the mid-70s. I would have been a teenager then if there's any old pictures of anything in the mid-70s, but because I'm pretty sure there was only one motel in Vermilion. But eventually we did make it to the house, and even with only that one heater, it felt way warmer. And of course, the oven was cooking turkey, and mincemeat pies were made, and all the potatoes and all the fixings were getting cooked. So that's when I think about it, one of my favorite Christmas stories is just the craziness, because it just sort of fits with my mother that we've found laughed the whole time. We just laughed and laughed and laughed. So
Yeah.
that's my
It's a
Christmas.
story to it's a story to remember, Kathy.
It is, yes.
If
So
everything had have gone smoothly, you probably may not
wouldn't
still
remember.
remember
Well,
it
because
today.
I had to look
No.
back and I found some pictures. I went, okay, that's at my grandma's, and it's about the right age that I was to figure
Yeah.
out what year it even was because I don't remember any of the rest of the Christmas. And other than I know from the photos I found that my cousins and my other aunt and uncle were there just from the photos, but I don't. Other than that, if it hadn't happened like that, I don't remember. Like I don't remember
Yeah.
dinner. I don't
Yeah.
remember any of
Yeah.
that. But I remember the breakfast in the motel.
You remember the mention, the lifesavers.
Yes, exactly.
So you painted the picture well, Kathy. I can just see it, the chaos and the fun
Yes.
and the fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fun.
Um,
So,
yeah, yeah. So that's really great. If anyone wants to ask our guests any questions, we might do that at the end. So we'll go on to Paula now. So Paula I came across in the last few weeks at Kathy's Corner when she was Kathy's guest with her postcards. And last week, Barbara put out at the live. I think it was at the live. Barbara put
Yeah, I
out
popped
a
in typing, watching you guys
yeah.
talk.
Yeah, yeah. So when Barbara put out the call for anyone else who wanted to come along and tell a sort of a holiday story of traditions or whatever, food, whatever, Paula put up her hand immediately. And so I'm so happy to have Paula here today. So Paula, I've been reading her Substack since then, and she tells stories. I have to read it because I won't know the name, about her one place study, which really piqued my interest, being a one-placer. And her study is of Stanley County, North Carolina. I hope I've got that right. And I've really enjoyed reading about it this week. So I'm happy to have Paula along here. And Paula, tell us your story.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. And for Stanley County, that is where my great grandfather is from. And it's only 6 miles from where I live, so I've been going up there a couple times in the last few years and working on the genealogy society with them. And I have taken on some duties like the US Gen Web for North Carolina. I am doing Stanley County. So part of this one place is going to be working to help me get that website more developed. It hadn't been worked on for quite a few years. So right now, if you're following, I'm going through cemeteries and making lists of people, and then I'm just going through the ancestry hints and going birth, death, marriage. Ooh, yes, that makes sense. That goes along with the census. Cool. Found other people. Yay. And just writing down the notes into that. So those notes will eventually come into other features, hopefully for the US Gen for surnames. But it's just going through the process because I think for a lot of ancestry, we're always told by many people online going, you have to like go down the rabbit hole, blah, 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 and have all this background information. But, let's get the bare bone tree of the main ideas. So I don't want people to be scared of, I have to do all this, bare bones, absolutely. And then we'll flesh it out eventually with more hints and newspapers and that. But I am originally from Northern Kentucky. I was brought up 10 miles south of Cincinnati. If you ever flown to Cincinnati, you flew over my house because the Cincinnati airport is actually in Kentucky. And my mother was a school teacher and my father worked for the railroad. But my father, if you notice in some of my recent posts, he was a hobbyist. He liked hobbies. He collected postcards. He created clubs. And this is in relation to his airline club, because his airline club that he started in 1975 was dealing with anything you could collect, dealing with commercial airlines. Back in the 70s, you could collect anything that had the logo. You got your cards, your postcards, your timetables, your kitty wings. They gave a lot of promotional items out. And then people took pictures and created slides, and they created models, and that dealt with anything. So we have a convention somewhere in the United States. But we also, because my dad being the president and he created the quarterly magazine called a Captain's Log, we had visitors to our house. So we lived in a ranch house with a basement that we also had a sofa couch in, and we had people who would fly in for a few days or overnight stay. We would take them out for dinner. Well, one of our traditions at Christmas time was to go up to Lebanon, Ohio. Now, Lebanon, Ohio is north of Cincinnati. If you've ever been to Kings Island in Ohio, Cincinnati, it's not too far from there. But Lebanon is on an old major road called a national road that traveled north from Cincinnati. So that's where originally you had your stagecoach going north. And they created an inn called the Golden Lamb. The Golden Lamb was created in 1803. And people would stay there. And they do have quite a few famous guests, such as Charles Dickens. And we had 12 presidents and other literary guests over the years. But over the time and into the 70s and 80s, they were known for their food, the Golden Lamb, but they still have hotel rooms available if you wanted to stay. So at the holidays, the Lebanon, Ohio decorates for Christmas, and the Golden Lamb is all decked out, and there are multiple trees and such. But they have a 3-course meal. So my mom, we get in the car, we travel up. Either we had my grandmother with us or we had another friend with us, but every year we would go up there. Well, one year in the mid 80s, we had guests from Australia. Now, I don't remember their names. He was a part of an import-export family business. He just recently married, so he and his wife were honeymooning across the United States. And back then, you could get a book from the airlines. You would pay like a general fee, and you go, okay, I'm in Texas and I want to go to Cincinnati. Oh, I got a ticket for that. You can go. So you can go like to 25 cities off this ticket that you bought. So they came and they're staying in our basement, and they stayed for 3 days. And so we say, well, we would like to take you off to dinner to the Golden Lamb. So we get into our Malibu station wagon. So it's not the big station wagon, it's a small station wagon. I'm stuck in the middle of the seat between the two ladies. We drive up. Now, typical winter is overcast, cold, windy type of feel. There's no sunshine. We get in the car, we're heading up and we go and have our dinner. It's a 3-course meal, turkey, and all that fun stuff. However, while we're there, it started snowing. We're an hour from home. Most of us on the highway, but if you know Cincinnati in northern Kentucky, we're hilly. You're going up and down hills on the interstate. And if they're not treated,
ice.
You're knuckle driving.
Yeah.
We found out that his wife has never seen snow. She is enthralled because we're getting the big fluffy stuff coming down. So we're walking out of the Golden Lamb. We're walking to the car, and these big flakes are coming down. She's like, yeah. And I'm a teenager, so we're having fun. We're having fun, and the adults are going, come on, we gotta get going. So we're driving, more snow on the ground, more snow on the ground. We do get home, no accident. Woohoo! And we pull into the driveway, and then she and I, we're making the snowman. It's sticking together. We're rolling up the snow, and we're making the snowman. So where she's teaching, she doesn't even have air conditioning in her school. She's at I think you have different parallels that you have back in the 80s where they would have air conditioning in the schools in Australia. So she was in an area that she wasn't even permissive. They didn't have it in because she wasn't in the area to be that hot, but it's still hot. We know that.
Yeah.
So we made her day and such. But it's stories like this of having people coming by. We always like sharing our area when people come to visit. Being from Cincinnati, if we had people who were from New York and such, we would always take them to Skyline Chili. And, they go for the 5-way with the beans and all that. For those who don't know Cincinnati chili, we have, it's a Greek background to it, but it's spaghetti and chili, cheese, onion, beans. So if you wanted to buy a 3-way, it's cheese on it. A 4-way, you have the onions included, and a 5-way has beans. And then you have coney dogs. So they're small hot dogs on small buns with cheese with mustard. And you can get chili on that. And again, you can put onions and such. So you can get 2 conies and a 3-way as a meal. So we would always share with friends on that. If they came into town and say, hey, you want to try something different you never had before, you take them to the local spot. So along with going to places with the conventions and getting new food items, it was always fun to see who we were entertaining at the house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
along with
Yeah.
talking to Kathy about all the postcard collections we had, it did bring that we did have a heritage of things. So it was always nice going up to the Golden Lamb every Christmas to go up there and go shopping in their gift shop and seeing the town. But this was one of my outstanding stories for the area.
Yeah. It's really great. And I will bet you that those Australian visitors are still talking about that holiday in the USA.
You just never know what you're going to come across. And then again, having that nice ticket going everywhere. But it was definitely an interesting evening, to say the least, for different reasons for different people.
Yeah.
My poor dad.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Kathy. And Paula, and your dad, because you said you spoke to him about him on the postcards. He sounds like a very, very interesting man. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad that his legacy is living on for his airline club, and he also created an F4 Phantom Club for an airplane that the military uses, and that's still going. And they do have tributes in both of their communities in regards to him. So,
oh wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. So I think now we could go over to Barbara. Would you like us to tell us your story, Barbara?
Well, it's funny. Each of these stories starts to pick up on a theme. I think that experience of childhood and being surprised. Kyla's puppy dog, you can listen to when you watch this recording. Each of these kinds of stories and the special, remarkable foods that we have and remember stay with us in ways that as parents, we hope to introduce our own kids to. And I guess at some level, the ambition is to know that what you did becomes their memory and their story. I'm always so overwhelmed by these that I don't know what story to tell. The only one that comes to mind is remarkably reminiscent of Kyla's story. As I've shared before, we lived in many places all over the world when I was a small kid. First coming to the United States at about 9. And because we lived in Latin America, lots of places, I never got that American kid experience of, playing with the kids on the front, the neighbor kids. That wasn't going to happen. And I didn't get the experience. I mean, to be clear, I got to play with the locals, the local neighbors and things, but there was no riding around on the front. My mom was always terrified of kidnapping and things like that. So here we are in the United States of America, and I'm so excited to be a kid, and I'm 9 years old, and I want a bicycle. Yeah, no, you can't do that. We live in an apartment. Not going to happen. Okay, I'm 10 years old. I still don't know how to ride a bicycle. Hello? Didn't happen. I'm 11 years old. Come on, man. It's getting embarrassing. Didn't happen. Okay, so this is like, and in our family, you didn't just go say, hey, Mom, can I get a bicycle? That wasn't going to happen either. So I'm 12, right? And my dad and my stepdad and my siblings and so on were wrapping presents for Christmas. Oh, hey, Barb, come help me wrap this one for Mom. Cool. It's a great big thing. And I'm like, what is this? It's a special secret for Mom. You gotta keep quiet, but you want to help her wrap. Okay. And I'm out there wrapping and putting gigantic letters across it that say M O-M, and it goes all the way. It's like the big present. Meanwhile, my heart is sinking. They don't remember me. And so, Christmas Eve, we put all the gifts out. We always had a kind of one gift on Christmas Eve sort of thing. I'm 12, I'm over the whole Santa thing. So I still don't have a bicycle. So they put out the giant thing way behind the tree and all the other stuff, and all the presents get open, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, maybe I'll get a job. Hey, Barb, says my mom, do you want to help me open the present? Okay. I'm at this point pretty disappointed. Go help me open the present. I mean, how stupid am I? So they sent me to help open the present, and I'm peeling it off. And at this point, there's a giant letters across the side of it, and it says, bicycle, fragile. And I read that, always being a little slow reader and maybe a little slow altogether. I say, is bicycle like a tool? Open it with I don't know what that means. And then it says fragile. I wonder what fragile means. My family is dying. Fragile. Oh, I'm confessing a lot here. So we finally open it up, and there it is. And I think the truth is my stepdad was like, not going to put the damn thing together. He was exhausted. I don't know. It was supposed to, couldn't happen. I don't know. Anyway, it was a bicycle, and it was for me, and I was like overjoyed. But I had to help put it all together. So to this day, I am the one to assemble the IKEA furniture, to put together the new VCR, to, string the lights, whatever it is, I'm in. But there we are. It turns out it wasn't fragile, and it was my single speed banana seat bicycle with those great big handlebars, and wait for it, those little streamers from the handlebars.
Yeah.
And I went and embarrassed myself at 12 to learn how to ride on the front streets, hoping the other kids wouldn't laugh at me. Thank you, Kyla. Y'all have to listen to Kyla's puppy dog. Oh, of course, I spoiled it now.
It's very similar in some ways and different. Oh, Barbara, you've just reminded me. Actually, every story today has reminded me of something from, my Christmas or whatever. You have just reminded me, and it's not Christmas, but I'll just have to tell you. So my daughter lived in London for 3 years, and I went over to see her, and I've been a bike rider since I could ride a bike, and I still do today. And she is too. So she said, I'll buy you a bike for when you're here. I thought, wow. She was early 20s and not one for spending much money or earning much money at that time. But wow, yeah, great. So she bought me a bike like your bike. I had handlebars up here. I'm used to riding, a very cool road bike with all the lycra and the whole works. And there I am on this bike, streamers. And we rode all around Wales on that bike and half of England.
Oh, my God.
You've just reminded me of that. So,
single speed?
Yeah.
Single speed or multiple speeds?
Oh, no, single speed, not 12 speed like I was used to.
What do they call those? There's a word for those in beach towns. Help me out here, Americans.
Yeah, I'll tell you in a
They call them
yeah, they do. And I know what it is, but
cruising bikes.
The beach cruise. We can't call them beach cruisers.
Beach cruiser.
Yeah.
You're
Florida, they got the wider
beach cruisers.
They have to have a wider tire to be able to go on the sand.
It's not what they call it here, but I'll tell you in a moment what that is, because I do know.
Oh, I'm sure they've got a good phrase.
They have.
Since I'm just a few miles from the beach over here. I'm just over the ditch before going to Jacksonville Beach. So
he has the Florida answer.
At least there's one answer.
Well, that's practically the only bike you can find here is a beach cruiser. You can't really find a typical road bike.
Okay.
Or as we like to call bikes here, mountain bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Redundant.
Over here, it's only the cool kids that ride those single speed bikes. It is. It's the cool kids and
because it's really hard to get up those hills at those single speed bikes.
Exactly. Yeah. And the ones that do deliveries around the city.
You gotta get that speed up before you can go up the hill.
You do.
Well,
Yeah,
remember, I
it's
said I
very
live in
cool.
Hill Park. My neighborhood was called Cherry Hill.
Yes.
Yes, there was a reason why, because you come in, you go
Yeah.
down a hill, back up the hill about halfway. There's a little bit of flat spot, and you go down, and then you come up, and then you have to make a turn. And we lived on the corner, so literally, I was living on hills and such. So for me to go up to the corner store, U Totem was the name at the time. You're at the flat part, and you're going, okay, I know that if I go down and start up, I'll get halfway up before I have to get off the bike and go walk it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can't do it on one speed unless you're really going to put your leg muscles into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the bike, the single speed bike here is called a fixie.
Fixie.
Actually,
Yeah.
fixies, I've definitely heard that in Hawaii. They're
you?
also called
Yeah.
fixies. It's probably
Yeah.
all of you Australians that have
Yeah.
dropped
Yeah.
the seed.
Probably.
I was just about to add that.
So thank you, Barbara. That
No,
was
I'm reminded
absolutely
as
wonderful.
sure. Happy to. As we get this chat going, I'm reminded how there are certain topics like a bicycle, but especially milestone objects in our lives. Maybe it's pilot wings, kitty wings, but milestone objects in our lives that just generate these powerful memories. It's not a holiday theme, but things like a car, your first car, the car that whatever. It's that I get to write that post. I'm going to write that post.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a theme
Definitely.
for a speaker's corner.
You know,
boy,
we should do one for the
stories in
first
there, too.
car we ever owned.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd read that.
How many of them were the same? I'll bet a lot of them.
Kathy did
Oh yeah.
remind me.
What was the name of your first car?
Yeah.
Oh
We
yes.
didn't start naming them until recently.
No, mine was Kermit.
Well,
What
we
was it,
did
Kathy?
have a big
All right.
green station wagon that had the main and the second face forward and the back seat face to the back. It was 1968, but we bought it in the 70s, and it was the big green monster.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's funny how we name objects.
Yeah.
As I was listening as Kathy started, and going by what she was saying before she started to tell her story, it just made me think. Kathy, you said that how wonderful it was to tell the story about your grandmother and the memories it brought up, and this is why we need to tell our stories. It just made me think this has been the wonderful thing about Speaker's Corner, being able to tell the stories orally, because it's wonderful to tell our stories in our posts and to write about them, but it's a totally different thing, I think, telling them orally. And I've just listening to you, everyone talk, has made me think of things from my Christmas and other times that I haven't thought about in years. And if you had written that down, I don't think I would have had those thoughts. It's the oral telling of the story sometimes.
No, I totally agree with you. It wouldn't be the same. And I'm thinking, I was just, because I have an album where I'm trying to organize, because the photo organizer's photos, of course, are not organized yet, but where I'm trying to organize like my mom's family, and I'm sharing the recording from the Speaker's Corner of the story of my grandmother that I told. I'm putting that in that, and it'll stay there forever because it's a written story. It's a verbal story. And while we don't have any of the original storytellers who've, like my aunt who told that story to my cousin, and cousin wrote it out on paper, it would be delightful to have that story in her voice. But this is the next best thing, because now future generations will have that story in my voice at least. So,
and you can take on that baton, Kathy, and run with it.
And that's, I think, I'm going to try and get some of my cousins to share some of their memories verbally, because I think people might be more inclined to do that than to have to write a story, write something out, because then you get all hung up on, is my punctuation correct and am I expressing it right? Where if you just talk, you don't have to worry about how you're spelling things
Yeah.
or what you're
Yeah.
saying. I think it's brilliant, Jennifer.
And you're not
great.
polishing the story, looking for
Yeah,
perfection.
and you're not
you know?
held
Yeah.
back by, oh, if I'm going to publish this, does it look good enough? Does it compare?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it up there with, I think it was Denise Allen who shared something the other day about how we were getting trained to think that we have to be a professional or an expert in order to tell our stories, and that couldn't be
Yeah.
anything further
Yeah.
from the truth. I love that post because I
No.
thought that's exactly it. Like,
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
need to, just need to be able to just tell a story and
Just tell the story. Yeah, that's the best way to tell it.
tell
Just
the
tell it.
story and
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
story out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. I love
Exactly.
that. So I have a story, a quick story.
Go ahead.
We don't have much tradition in our family, although as I've started to think about it, we have a lot of traditions, but they're all very small little traditions. And we don't have traditions of traveling to have Christmas with our family because, fortunately, really, probably our family all live close. Although I used to be quite jealous of the kids at school who were, doing the road trip to visit grandma and that type of thing. So my grandmother lived very close to me, so I was very close to her. I did tell in the preview about what we called my grandmother, but I'll do it again for anyone who hasn't watched it because it's part of the story of her actually. So my grandmother was Other Mum. And that's what I was born knowing her as, and what I called her until the day she died. And it wasn't until I went to school that I realised that everyone's grandmother wasn't Other Mum. I really did think that. She got her name by her daughter singing out the mum, and her mum came and she was after her grandmother, and she said, no, it's the other mum I want. So she was Other Mum. And my kids called her Other Mum too, right up until the end. So as I said, I was very close to my grandmother because she lived nearby. In those days, things were a bit different, and I used to go off on my bike early in the morning and I wouldn't come back till dark. But with my friends, and during that day, we would always call into Other Mum's house and have, a cup of tea and a bicky or lunch or something, so, she was a big part of my life. Now, she was a tiny, tiny little lady. And I have to tell you this so you understand the story. Very tiny, very busy, very tough. She rode her bike to work about 2K away from their house in a factory, rode home for lunch, cooked my grandfather a hot lunch, and then rode back to work. And I just, even as a bike rider, I don't know how she did that. So she worked there until she was past retirement age. She actually had a gold watch ceremony on her birthday for retirement, but she went to work the next day because she said that wasn't anything to do with the retirement because she wasn't retiring. That was just for her birthday. So I think they humoured her along for a while and let her keep going, and eventually she did retire. And she rode a horse, a huge horse, until around about the time she retired. She would arrive at our house on a Sunday dressed in her equestrian best, all the gear. She had it because she used to go into the show ring and she just kept riding that gear. She got to our house. My dad had to go out and lift her off the horse. And when it was time to go home, he had to pop her back on the horse and she rode home. And I presume my grandfather lifted her off at the other end. I'm not sure. So that's my grandmother. So she's just this very tough lady. So we always had lunch at her house on Christmas Day, and that was just always happened. So one day during the week before, my Christmas memory of that lunch really happened a couple of days before Christmas. As I popped around there on my bike, put the bike up, went in the back gate, inside calling out to her, and my grandfather said, she's down the backyard. So at the chook house, probably should say chicken these days, but we call them chooks. So I used to love going to the chook house to say hello to the chooks, and I just loved them. So down I went, really, very happy to be doing that. Opened the gate, and there was my grandmother with a chook on the chopping block, with an axe above her head, just about to do the first preparation for Christmas lunch and swing that axe. So I ran away absolutely screaming and horrified into the house. Yeah, so nothing was really, she didn't even say, you're upset, or no one said. It was just what you did, to have chook for Christmas dinner. So I'm not really sure whether I had chook that year. Really not sure about that, but I often wonder, I've been vegetarian for most of my life, and I often wonder whether if that's where it started. Yeah, so it was a horrific experience, that was. But we just went on to have Christmas dinner as usual, and then I'm sure she did it again the next year. And bearing in mind, she was probably about 60 by then, so swinging that axe probably, it wasn't beyond her though. Yeah. So then on to Christmas lunch. The thing we loved most about it was the Christmas pudding. And I was so interested to read Anne's post. And it was the full thing, the rich pudding with the fruit, steamed pudding, fruit, the suet, the whole thing. And we absolutely loved it. My dad would say, as we finished our main course, okay, time for the plum duff. And to me, as a child, that just sounded like the weirdest phrase. And I always thought Dad just made that up, because Dad used to I could write a whole post about the things Dad made up to make us, to trick us. So I just assumed it was one of those things. And I thought of that today when I read Anne's post, because I haven't thought about this in years. So I thought I'd better Google it. And lo and behold, it's a thing, plum duff. So plum duff is Christmas pudding. In England, it was called plum duff in the northern part of England, but it was actually plum dough, D-O-U-G-H, but that's how they pronounce dough, as duff. So I'm not sure whether my dad knew that, but yeah, so it is actually a thing. So here I was thinking he was tricking me all that time. So then when the pudding came out, the other tradition with the pudding was the money in the pudding. Not sure, did you have that, Kathy, in Canada? Money in the Christmas pudding?
Sorry, no, we didn't.
No, because it's an English tradition. I thought you may have had it too. So
we had coins, and that it was pre-decimal currency was okay.
Yeah.
And then we had to save our sixpences because they were suitable for puddings, but the modern 5-cent pieces were not for some. And so we had sixpences for years in
did
pudding.
you?
Hard to believe
right.
that. Yeah.
We weren't saving our sixpences. So when the pudding was dished up in the kitchen, so the children couldn't see where the coins went to, coins were slipped into the pudding. Sixpences, as Anne said, were slipped into the pudding. And it was then we really didn't care about, as kids, about the Christmas pudding. We didn't really even like it that much, but we just loved pulling it apart, looking for the coins. And we weren't giving those coins back, I can tell you, for next year. So, but yes, my partner told me yesterday that it was because of zinc in the coins when they went to decimal, that they weren't allowed to be ingested. So they then brought out small tokens, a little bit like Monopoly tokens, but tinier and lighter, and they got slipped into the pudding. But that didn't impress us all that much at all. It was the money we were after, not the Christmas pudding. So once the money stopped, our excitement at the Christmas pudding was over, until I became an adult, and now I just love Christmas pudding. Yep. So
world needed gold coins.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But Barbara, you've reminded me with your story. Like I said, everyone has reminded me of something. Another thing with the bikes, we were a bike riding family. This is my kids, my husband and I, and my kids. We were a bike riding family, and we were just always rode bikes together. And every year there seemed to be a child who was due for a new bike at Christmas time, because we had, because we love bikes so much, we had to have the latest and the best and the shiniest, and we just loved seeing a bike under that tree, and we really didn't care who was getting the bike. Of course, the child that was getting it was really happy, but we weren't sad that it wasn't us, that we were just happy that someone in the family was getting a bike. So that then went on to remind me of what I think is my first memory. I tried to rack my brain, I can't think of anything else, was of getting my three-wheeler, big three-wheeler, I had a little one when I was 3 years old, my big three-wheeler for Christmas. And I just was so excited. I can remember it so clearly. And I jumped on that bike and rode up and down what I thought was the longest hallway in the world, but it probably wasn't very long at all. And then halfway back, I suddenly realised, oh, I'm riding my bike inside. I'm not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to ride our bike inside, you know. And I was waiting to get into trouble, but of course I didn't, and kept going. And I just remember that just so clearly. Yeah. So I really would like to thank everyone for their stories, because they've brought up so many memories for me of things I hadn't thought of in years and years and years. And, you know, even though some of us are on the other side of the world, we're still experiencing the same things. So that was something I wasn't expecting to hear out of our stories today. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say was, number one, and she will growl at me, I just want to thank Barbara. No, I know I did on the earlier session, but I just have to say it again for our guests today and people watching. Just for all she is for the Project King community and everything that you have created, Barbara. It has just been absolutely just wonderful for family historians and genealogists to be able to get together in this community and just connect. So it has been wonderful. Yeah. So thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
From all of us, I would say. Yeah. So
very kind.
And also, one more thing that I thought of just as someone was talking was, our stories today have all had a theme. Actually, today the theme's been snow almost, I think, two out of three. And but it's the theme to me, the one word that came to me was joy. You know, there's been so much joy in both these sessions. And I thought we've had the joy of connection and the joy of family, the joy of friends, the joy of memories. And of course, there's the joy of telling our family's stories. So I have absolutely loved it. So thank you to everyone. And we will be back in January, same time, same back channel, as they say, second week in January. And our guests will be Xanthi Hall and Xanthi from X Factored Family Stories, and Marion Beeman from Marion's News. So they're going to come along and tell us a story about those family secrets that are locked away that we don't ever expect to hear about. So that's something I'm looking forward to hearing about. So thank you to our guests so much for all you have contributed, you know, earlier in the year and today. Yeah. And over to you, Barbara.
Yes, gosh, thank you. And thank you for your kind words. But truly, I didn't even know this when I started, but the term ringleader really fits, because I'm just sitting here setting up the markers and standing back, and it's breathtaking to see what's happening. And you know, the amazing thing to me, you just described it here, that this second session, the specific edition, has a theme, and it's very different from the theme that we evolved into this morning. And there is something very special that happens when the stories are told. To me, that's at the essence of what this whole Speaker's Corner is about. I will see more events from Project Kin that are combining in these stories of your own, because quite frankly, I think there is something, yes, of course, there's something special to an orally told story for all of the reasons you described. But I also, maybe this is just having grown up as the littlest sister, that I always felt like I had to rush to get the story in edgewise because somebody would stop me. And all I had to have time for is this is what happened. And then they died. Oh, Mom, your stories are always so sad. Well, yeah. And I think, maybe I'm not alone in that experience.
No.
It is a real honor to kind of be here to watch it happen. And I think there may be a time, well, we have it over for mission genealogy events and that are just private. They're not recorded. There are some stories that are told that need to be told, that need to be shared. We can do it virtually, but they don't need to be recorded because
Yeah.
they're too close. You can't get too close. You can get too close to the flame. And sometimes those are the very most important stories to be told. So I think I wish you all and all of you in recording land to take the time with your loved ones, take the time with your elders, take the time with the people you are just sitting in front of and you never knew any more about, to just say, hey, what's your story? Tell me, talk to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing what you discover. So thank you
Yeah.
all so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure and a remarkable year. And I look forward to more of these kinds of programs in the year to come.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep.